Special elections taking place in both Oklahoma and Arkansas today. What's on the ballot and where you can vote coming up in just a few moments. Plus, latest on masks in Fort Smith schools. We'll get you up to date on COVID-19 in the natural state, also coming up in a few minutes. Thanks for joining us for your 5 News at noon. I'm Darren Bob. Joe has the afternoon off. A grand jury in Little Rock has indicted 4 people now on federal human trafficking charges. Here's what we know about this. The case started January 9th when police found a 17-year-old girl walking around the Walmart parking lot in West Memphis asking for help. There, she told police she was from Phoenix and had been taken to West Memphis and forced into prostitution. As of right now, the defendants have only been identified as 3 men and 1 woman. The state's charges of rape, kidnapping, and trafficking will be dropped in favor of new federal charges. Also new at noon today, 1 man has been arrested after allegedly trying to shoot his spouse. 26-year-old Jordan Kennedy was arrested yesterday. Police say Kennedy shot at his spouse at some apartments near North 52nd and Spradling. The spouse was unharmed. Kennedy was taken into custody after a brief search of the area. He is now facing charges of aggravated assault and possession of a firearm. He's being held this afternoon in the Sebastian County Jail on a $1,500 bond. 2 Yell County teens last seen in Rogers are missing, according to Yell County Sheriff's Office. 17-year-old Cole Robinson and 17-year-old Nevaeh de los Santos both left Two Rivers School in Central Arkansas on Friday. They then drove to Rogers. Robinson had permission from a parent to go, but he now isn't answering his phone calls or any messages. The 2 were in a 2008 silver Dodge Caliber with no license plate. If you see these 2, please call your local police department. Meanwhile, we are expecting to learn the official ruling on Gabby Petito, how she died. That's happening later today when a Wyoming coroner will provide an update on the 22-year-old's autopsy during a press briefing. Petito's death ruled a homicide. Officials have disclosed few details about it or about the state of her body when it was found. Now, her fiance, Brian Laundrie, still missing. He is now considered a fugitive, and investigators have issued a warrant for his arrest on a fraud-related charge. All right, let's send you outside on this gorgeous afternoon. A live look along I-49 in Springdale. Just a few wispy clouds here and there, but that's all fitting to change between now and, say, midnight, Michelle?
Yeah, we are expecting some changes tonight, but today, absolutely gorgeous. Low humidity, temperatures are feeling pretty good. We're only in the 70s right now. We're at 73 degrees in Springdale, and then checking out Fort Smith as well, seeing clear skies. Heading into our Tuesday afternoon, we're at 76 degrees, and it feels so good outside because that humidity is pretty low. So it's kind of that dry heat that we're seeing. A little bit of breeze right now, but those winds will start to pick up ahead of our next system. So right now you can see temperatures 70s and 60s, but notice across Colorado, they're in the 50s and 40s. That's our next cold front that's going to push through tomorrow, increasing our rain chances for tomorrow morning. Right now, though, it's going to be a gorgeous day. Temperatures in the 70s. We're at 76 degrees in Fort Smith and 75 degrees in Clarksville. So a little bit of changes by this afternoon. We're seeing a little bit of cloud cover push in from the south. That's all because of a warm front. We do have a little bit of a rain chance this afternoon, just about a 20 to 30% chance. But by tomorrow, we could see some heavy rainfall, and that will continue until about Friday. I'll have that forecast staring coming up.
All right, Michelle, thanks. The U.S. House expected to vote today to extend the nation's debt limit through early December after the Senate approved a stopgap measure last week in a bid to avert a catastrophic default and economic disaster. Once the Democrat-controlled House passes the short-term extension, it'll be cleared for the president's signature. We'll have much more on this tonight on your 5 News First at 4 and 5. It is election day in a few local towns. In Sallisaw, voters are deciding a big project for the school system. It's a $3.5 million bond issue to pay for storm shelters to be built at the high school, the middle school, and East Side and Liberty elementary schools. In LaFleur County, voters in Heavener and Howe deciding if OG&E can contribute to or continue to distribute electricity within city limits. Polls in Oklahoma close at 7 o'clock tonight. People who live in Taneytown are going to the polls today, being asked to vote in a special election. Voters deciding on a new fire station for the city and sewer and water improvements. Voters are deciding on what's called a bond reallocation. It's to pay off an existing bond, and then it allows the city to refinance to pay for these projects. The bond will not increase taxes or sales taxes in Taneytown. It will renew the sales tax currently in place. Taneytown residents can cast votes at St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Taneytown until 7:30 tonight. The FDA posting documents from Johnson & Johnson and Moderna ahead of a meeting later this week to discuss booster shots of their vaccines. Meantime, another drug maker asking the agency to authorize emergency use of its COVID-19 treatment pill. Laura Podesta has the latest now from New York.
More than 7 million Americans have already received a Pfizer booster shot. And now an FDA advisory panel is getting ready to consider whether to approve boosters for the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines as well.
We would like to make sure that their protection is also boosted so that they won't get infections that are even mild, let alone serious enough to put them in a hospital.
Among the questions health experts are expected to address, how much vaccine should be in the Moderna booster? The drug maker says 50 micrograms, half of what was in the original 2 doses, should be enough. There are also questions about when people should get the Johnson & Johnson booster. The company submitted data for options at 2 months or at 6 months after the original single-dose vaccination.
And I think the FDA will look at this. Can you mix and match? Can you start with J&J and finish with either Moderna or Pfizer? The mix and match issues are also on the table.
The FDA is also considering whether to authorize emergency use for Merck's COVID-19 treatment pill. The drug maker says early trials show molnupiravir cut hospitalizations and deaths by about half.
Just imagining as a primary care physician the power of an oral outpatient medication such as molnupiravir, it would be a remarkable game changer.
The drug is targeted at unvaccinated people who have already developed symptoms. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
Well, let's take a look at the numbers, COVID numbers in Arkansas from yesterday. 217 new cases reported by the Department of Health, slightly higher than this time last week, but still one of the lowest single-day increases we've seen since the beginning of summer. Just under 6,900 active cases in the state. 12 more people died from COVID-related complications yesterday. Brings that total now to 8,132. 545 people in the hospital across the state. That's down nearly 1,000 from just a few months ago. 164 patients on ventilators this afternoon. Well, after a 4-3 vote, students no longer have to wear masks in Fort Smith schools. This comes as COVID-19 cases around the area continue to drop. While this is a positive trend, the board's still not ruling out masks completely. They say they'll make changes if necessary. Now, despite the current decision, one attorney who sued the Bentonville School District over masks plans to sue the Fort Smith District over the district, saying the schools do not have the authority to enact mandates. Right now, the district is not worried about the lawsuit, saying the Benton County decision does not legally apply to Sebastian County. Here in Arkansas, a bill right now sitting on Governor Asa Hutchinson's desk would loosen vaccine mandates for workers. It allows employees to skip the shot by getting COVID tested once a week, or they can show a positive antibody test result. It's a move that medical experts have warned against, saying rapid antibody tests cannot tell whether someone is immune to the virus. Governor Hutchinson has said he's against the idea, but has not said whether he'll sign this or veto the bill. His decision should come either today or tomorrow. Regardless of what the governor decides, we've gotten a lot of questions from you about the mandate. One of those, who pays for the COVID test for unvaccinated workers? Well, it turns out employers could force workers to pay for their own tests, but the situation's still very cloudy. Here's Evan Kozlov to verify.
All over the U.S., employees are being told to either get the shot or face frequent testing. And this is impacting a lot of people. You may remember back in September, President Biden announced a pending OSHA rule. Businesses with 100 or more employees will have to require either a vaccine or a COVID test at least once a week. And many small businesses are deciding to do this as well, which begs the question, who pays? Let's verify. Does your employer need to pay for those COVID tests? Our researchers took that question to 2 employment lawyers and 1 expert in global health law.
I think that the employer could require the employees to pay for it. It certainly will not go onto the federal government as being a cost to them, but it'll ultimately come down to the employer and what the employer chooses to do.
In other words, the ball's in their court. and they could make you pay.
Now, is there a more complicated discussion if the testing is because the employee can't get vaccinated due to a disability or due to religious reasons? Maybe, because then maybe we're venturing into the world of reasonable accommodation.
But in the end, all our experts say that even those with reasonable accommodations might have to foot the bill. But remember, we haven't seen the final OSHA rules just yet, so things could change.
When the OSHA standard comes out, it may be silent on the question of who pays, or it just may be an employer must pay.
So we can verify that no, your employer does not have to cover the costs, but big businesses will want to watch out for that OSHA rule, which could make them have to pay up. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
Southwest Airlines experiencing a fifth straight day of widespread cancellations. Yesterday, 435 Southwest flights were canceled, brings the total above 2,000 since Friday. Now, the airline has been clashing with its pilots union over its decision to require COVID vaccines. It's raised concerns that pilots were walking off the job. Airline has declined to comment on those specific claims, but says staffing has been an issue since before the pandemic and still blames weather and external factors for all these cancellations.
And right now we are seeing sunny skies, but that's about to change by this evening. We could see some heavy rainfall starting tomorrow and continuing to about Friday. But after that, though, we're going to see fall-like temperatures for this weekend. I'll have that 7-day forecast coming up right after this break.